The coffee mug hit the kitchen counter harder than intended when my wife dropped her bombshell about bringing her ex to the office Christmas party. She stood there, arms crossed, wearing that expression she gets when she thinks she's being clever. A secure husband would understand this is just a trust test, she said, like she was explaining basic math to a child. I took a slow sip of my coffee and looked at her directly. Perfect. Sounds like the ideal event to build trust. The surprise on her face was immediate. She'd clearly expected an argument, maybe some jealousy, definitely not calm agreement. Really? You're okay with this? Why wouldn't I be? If this is about trust, then we should both be completely transparent. I set down my mug and pulled out my phone. What's his name again? I want to make sure I know who you'll be with. She hesitated for just a moment. Why do you need to know that? Trust, remember? You said this whole thing is about trust. I kept my tone light, almost casual. If we're being open and honest, then there shouldn't be any secrets. His name is Ryan. Ryan Thompson. He works in marketing for a tech company downtown. She was watching my face carefully, probably looking for any sign of discomfort. I nodded and typed the name into my phone notes. Thompson. Got it. When did you two reconnect anyway? We've been talking for a few weeks. He reached out on social media, said he was going through a rough patch with his wife. She shrugged like it was no big deal. I figured as his friend, I could offer some support. That's generous of you. I stood up and rinsed my mug in the sink. Supporting someone through marriage problems. I'm sure his wife appreciates your involvement. She doesn't really understand him the way I do. The way she said it told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about friendship or support. This wasn't even really about testing my trust. This was about her wanting to play house with an old flame and finding a way to do it with my blessing. I turned back to face her. Well, if he's going through a rough patch with his wife, maybe she'd like some support too. What's her name? I don't really know much about her. The answer came too quickly. Interesting. He talks to you about his marriage problems, but never mentions his wife's name. I picked up my phone again. Thompson isn't that common a name in the marketing scene here. Shouldn't be too hard to figure out which company he works for. Why are you being weird about this? I'm not being weird. I'm being supportive. You want to help your friend through his marriage problems, and I want to help too. Maybe his wife and I could grab coffee sometime. Compare notes on what it's like being married to people who need outside support. She stared at me for a long moment. You're acting strange. I'm acting exactly how you said a secure husband should act. Trusting, understanding, supportive. I slipped my phone into my pocket. When's this party again? Friday night. 7 o'clock at the hotel downtown. Great. I'll make sure my schedule is clear. I headed toward the door, then stopped. Oh, and honey, since we're building trust and all, I hope you don't mind if I invite a few people myself. You know how these work events can be. More the merrier. The look on her face was priceless. She'd set up what she thought was a perfect trap, a way to get what she wanted while making me look like the bad guy if I objected. Instead, I'd just agreed to everything and somehow made her uncomfortable in the process. I spent my lunch break doing research. Ryan Thompson, marketing, tech company, going through marriage problems. It took 3 LinkedIn searches and 2 company websites, but I found him. Thompson Marketing Solutions, and sure enough, there was Ryan's profile picture. Married to Lisa Thompson, according to his personal social media that wasn't quite as private as he probably thought. Lisa Thompson was pretty, worked as a nurse at the local hospital, and based on her recent posts, had no idea her husband was planning to attend someone else's work party. Her last Facebook post was about looking forward to quiet weekend plans with her husband. I sat in my car outside the hospital that evening, waiting for the shift change. Lisa came out at exactly 6:15, looking tired but professional in her scrubs. I approached her carefully, making sure to seem non-threatening. Excuse me, are you Lisa Thompson? She turned, slightly wary. Yes. I'm sorry to bother you. My name is… Well, this is going to sound strange, but I think we might have something in common. I believe your husband Ryan knows my wife. Her expression shifted from wariness to concern. What do you mean? Could we talk somewhere private? I think there are some things you should know about this Friday night. 20 minutes later, we sat across from each other in a quiet corner booth at the diner down the street from the hospital. Lisa had ordered coffee but hadn't touched it. Her hands were folded on the table, and I could see she was trying to process what I'd just told her. So let me get this straight, she said slowly. Your wife invited my husband to be her date for her office Christmas party, and Ryan agreed to this. That's exactly what happened. She called it a trust test for me. Said a secure husband would understand. I pulled out my phone and showed her the text conversation I'd had with my wife earlier. See, she's been planning this for weeks. Lisa read the messages, her jaw tightening with each line. Trust test. Right. She looked up at me. And you're telling me this because? Because I don't think you deserve to sit at home on Friday night while your husband plays escort to another woman, especially when that woman is my wife. She was quiet for a moment, staring at her untouched coffee. Ryan told me he was working late Friday. Said he had a big presentation to prepare for. Does he often work late on Friday nights? More and more lately. Her voice was getting harder. And he's been on his phone constantly, texting, smiling at the screen. When I ask about it, he says it's work stress and I wouldn't understand. How long has this been going on? About 6 weeks. She finally picked up her coffee cup. 6 weeks of late nights, mysterious phone calls, and him being distant. I thought maybe he was planning something special for Christmas. Turns out he was planning something special, just not for me. I leaned back in the booth. Lisa, can I ask you something? If the situation were reversed, if you were the one getting cozy with an ex and lying about it, how do you think Ryan would react? He'd lose his mind. Completely lose it. She shook her head. He once got upset because the grocery store cashier was friendly to me. Interesting double standard. You could say that. She set down her cup with a sharp click. So what exactly are you proposing here? I'm proposing that we both attend this party on Friday night. You as my guest, me as the supportive husband who's totally fine with trust tests. I met her eyes. Let them have their fun. Let them think they're getting away with something. And then let's see how they explain the situation when you walk in. You want to ambush them. I want to give them the opportunity to be honest. In front of her entire office. I pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. My number's on there. Think about it. But if you decide to join me, or something that makes you feel confident, this kind of thing works better when you look like you belong. She picked up the card and studied it. You seem awfully calm about all this. I'm furious. But fury doesn't solve problems. Strategy does. I stood up and left a 20 on the table. Call me by Thursday if you're in. If not, I understand. Either way, you deserve to know what your husband is really doing Friday night. The next morning, my wife was practically glowing over breakfast. She hummed while making coffee and kept checking her phone, smiling at whatever messages she was getting. You seem happy, I observed. I'm just glad we worked through that trust issue. It shows how strong our relationship is. She came over and kissed my cheek. Not every husband would be secure enough to handle something like this. Not every wife would think to test their husband's security either. You're pretty unique. I am, aren't I? She was beaming now. Ryan says he's really looking forward to meeting you properly at the party. He's going to meet me? Well, of course. You'll be there too, won't you? I mean, spouses are invited. Right. Of course they are. I buttered my toast carefully. Will I get to meet his wife too? The question caught her off guard. His wife. Lisa, right? I assume she'll be there since spouses are invited, and this is all about transparency and trust. Oh, she won't be coming. She doesn't really do social events. Very shy person. That's too bad. I was looking forward to meeting her. I took a bite of toast. Maybe another time. My wife's phone buzzed and she grabbed it immediately, turning slightly away from me to read the message. The smile on her face told me everything about who was texting. Ryan. I asked casually. Just confirming details for Friday. She was typing back quickly. You know how these work events can be. Lots of coordination required. I bet. Must be nice having someone to coordinate with. Very supportive. She looked at me sharply, but I was focused on my breakfast, keeping my expression neutral. After a moment, she relaxed and went back to her phone. My phone rang that afternoon. Lisa's name showed on the screen. I'm in, she said without preamble. But I have conditions. I'm listening. First, this stays between us until Friday night. No matter what happens, we don't let them know we've talked beforehand. Agreed. Second, if this goes badly, if it turns into some kind of public disaster, we support each other. No throwing each other under the bus. Fair enough. Third, I want to know exactly what your plan is. Not just the ambush part. What happens after we walk in there? I smiled. She was thinking like a strategist now. The plan is simple. We show up, we're polite, we're charming, and we let them explain the situation to everyone present. No accusations, no drama from us. Just two confused spouses wondering why their partners are together at a work party. And then, Then we let them dig their own graves. People like this always do, given enough rope. There was a pause. You know what? I like your style. Friday night it is. One more thing, Lisa. When we walk in there, we're walking in as a team. Whatever happens, we've got each other's backs. Deal. See you Friday. After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and looked out the window. My wife thought she was playing chess, but she'd been playing checkers this whole time. Friday night was going to be very educational for everyone involved. Thursday evening brought a flurry of activity from my wife. She'd spread 3 different outfits across our bed and was holding up earrings to her reflection in the mirror, asking my opinion on which ones looked better. The silver ones, I said from the doorway. They're classy. You think? I was leaning toward the gold. She held up the other pair. Ryan mentioned he likes gold jewelry. Ryan has opinions about your jewelry now. We were just talking about style preferences. He has good taste. She set down the earrings and picked up a black dress. What about this one? For a work party? It's elegant, not inappropriate. But she was already reaching for a different option, a navy blue dress that was definitely more conservative. Maybe this one is better for the office crowd. Good choice. Professional, but still attractive. I sat on the edge of the bed. So how exactly is this evening going to work? I mean, logistically speaking. What do you mean? Well, you're going with Ryan. I'm going alone. Do we arrive separately? Together? Do I pretend not to know you're there with another man? She turned to face me, suddenly looking uncertain. I hadn't really thought about the details. Seems like an important detail. Your coworkers are going to see you with someone who isn't your husband. What's the story there? I'll figure it out. She was getting defensive now. It's not that complicated, right? Simple trust test. Nothing complicated about bringing your ex-boyfriend to meet your colleagues while your husband shows up alone. I kept my tone light, almost amused. Should be interesting to see how that plays out. You're making this weird. I'm making this realistic. But don't worry about me. I'll figure out how to handle the questions when people ask where my wife is. Not nervous. Excited. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Outfit selected. Ready for tomorrow. Are you nervous? I typed back. Not nervous. Excited. What are you smiling about? My wife asked. Just work stuff. Boss confirmed I can leave early tomorrow to make it to the party on time. Oh good. It'll be nice having you there. But her voice lacked conviction. I'm looking forward to it. Meeting your colleagues. Seeing you in your element. Meeting Ryan, of course. Right? Ryan. She picked up her phone and started typing. I should probably coordinate with him about timing. Good idea. Coordination is key. Friday morning, my wife spent an extra hour getting ready. Hair, makeup, the navy dress, the silver earrings I'd recommended. She looked beautiful, which made the whole situation more infuriating. You look stunning, I told her honestly. Thank you. She checked her reflection one more time. I want everything to be perfect tonight. I'm sure it will be. Very memorable evening for everyone involved. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I'll see you there. Wouldn't miss it. After she left, I called Lisa. How are you holding up? I asked. I've been better. Ryan left 20 minutes ago, said he was going to grab drinks with some colleagues before the party. Needed to network, apparently. Pre-gaming with my wife, more likely. Probably. I keep thinking I should just confront him now, get it over with. Don't. Tonight will be much more effective. Trust me. Easy for you to say. You're not the one whose husband has been lying for weeks. Actually, my wife has been planning this for weeks too. We're both in the same boat here. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. Lisa, can I ask you something? Sure. After tonight, after whatever happens, what do you want? I mean, what's your ideal outcome here? There was a long pause. Honestly, I want him to feel as humiliated as I feel right now. I want him to have to explain himself to everyone who matters to him. And then I want him gone. That's exactly what's going to happen. What about you? What do you want? I thought about it for a moment. I want my wife to realize that actions have consequences. I want her to understand that testing someone's trust by breaking it isn't actually a test at all. And I want her to face those consequences publicly, with all her colleagues watching. We make a good team. Yes, we do. That afternoon, I got a text from my wife, running a little late. Party started, but we'll be there soon. Ryan's car had issues, so we had to figure out transportation. I showed the message to Lisa when I picked her up at 6:30. She looked incredible in an emerald green dress that fit her perfectly. Car trouble. Right. She shook her head. More likely they wanted extra time alone before facing the crowd. Probably. But that works in our favor. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they're in control. We drove to the hotel in comfortable silence. Lisa checked her makeup in the visor mirror. You know what's funny? She said as we pulled into the parking garage. What's that? 6 months ago, if someone had told me I'd be attending a Christmas party with a stranger to catch my cheating husband, I would have said they were crazy. 6 months ago, if someone told me my wife would try to bring her ex to a work party as a trust test, I would have said the same thing. Life is weird. Life is unpredictable. But sometimes you get the chance to take control of the narrative. We walked into the hotel lobby together. Lisa had linked her arm through mine, and we looked like exactly what we were supposed to look like, a confident, attractive couple arriving at a holiday party. Ready for this? I asked as we approached the elevator. More than ready. The elevator doors opened, and we stepped inside. Lisa checked her reflection one more time in the mirrored walls. Do I look like someone who belongs here? You look like someone who owns the place. Perfect. As the elevator climbed toward the party, I felt a strange sense of calm. My wife thought she'd been clever, setting up her little test, manipulating the situation to get what she wanted. But she'd forgotten something important. Tests work both ways. The elevator dinged softly as we reached our floor. The hotel ballroom was exactly what you'd expect for a corporate Christmas party. Soft lighting, round tables with white linens, a small stage with a DJ, and about 60 people in business casual attire mingling with drinks in their hands. Lisa and I entered like we belonged there, which technically I did. There's the bar, Lisa said quietly. Should we get drinks first? Good idea. Give us a chance to survey the room. We made our way through the crowd, and I nodded to a few colleagues I recognized. The marketing director, the HR manager, a couple of people from accounting. Normal Friday night, work party crowd. Do you see them? Lisa asked as we reached the bar. I scanned the room methodically. Not yet, but the night is young. 2 glasses of wine, please, I told the bartender. Red for the lady, white for me. While we waited for our drinks, I felt a hand on my shoulder. Hey there, stranger. It was Carol from HR, beaming at me. I didn't know you were coming tonight. Where's your wife? Oh, she's around somewhere. Running late, I think. I gestured to Lisa. Carol, I'd like you to meet Lisa. Lisa, this is Carol from Human Resources. Nice to meet you, Lisa said with a perfect smile, extending her hand. Are you in the industry too? Carol asked. Healthcare, actually. Nursing. Lisa's response was smooth, confident. But I've heard so much about everyone here. Well, any friend of his is a friend of ours. You two enjoy the party. As Carol walked away, I leaned closer to Lisa. See how easy that was? We're just another couple at the party. Your wife's coworkers seem nice. They are, which is going to make this even more interesting when she has to explain herself. We found a spot near the windows where we could see most of the room. I checked my watch, 7:20. My wife was definitely late, even by her standards. There, Lisa said suddenly, her grip tightening on my arm. I followed her gaze to the entrance. My wife had just walked in, and she looked stunning. But it wasn't her appearance that caught my attention. It was how she was walking. Head high, confident smile, and her hand resting possessively on the arm of the man beside her. Ryan Thompson was tall, well-dressed, and walking into that party like he belonged there. More importantly, he was walking in like he belonged with my wife. They looked comfortable together, Lisa said, her voice tight. Very comfortable. Look at her body language. My wife was scanning the room, probably looking for me, but she was also laughing at something Ryan was saying. Her hand moved from his arm to briefly touch his back as she guided him toward the bar. They're not acting like friends, Lisa observed. No, they're not. I watched as my wife introduced Ryan to several of her colleagues. I couldn't hear the conversations from across the room, but I could see the reactions. Polite smiles, handshakes, the occasional raised eyebrow. People were definitely wondering who this man was and why he was with the boss's wife. Should we go over there? Lisa asked. Not yet. Let them get settled. Let them think they have control of the situation. My phone buzzed. Text from my wife. Just arrived. Where are you? I showed Lisa the message. She's checking in, making sure I'm here to witness her trust test. Are you going to respond? In a minute. Let her wonder. We watched as my wife and Ryan found a table near the center of the room. She was animated, gesturing as she talked, clearly enjoying herself. Ryan was leaning in close to hear her over the music, closer than necessary. Look at his hand, Lisa said. Ryan's hand was resting on the back of my wife's chair, his fingers occasionally brushing her shoulder. It was subtle, but unmistakably intimate. Trust test, right? I said. That's definitely what this looks like. Another text from my wife. Hello? Are you here yet? I typed back. Just arrived. Getting drinks. See you soon. Time to make our move? Lisa asked. Almost. One more minute. I watched as my wife showed Ryan something on her phone, both of them laughing. She looked happier than I'd seen her in months. The irony wasn't lost on me that she seemed more relaxed and genuine with her ex-boyfriend than she had with me lately. You know what the worst part is? Lisa said quietly. What's that? They actually look good together. Like they're enjoying each other's company. They are enjoying each other's company. That's the problem. My wife's colleague approached their table, a woman from the finance department. I watched the interaction carefully. My wife introduced Ryan, and I could see her gesturing toward the rest of the room, probably explaining that her husband was somewhere around. Okay, I said, setting down my wine glass. Now we make our entrance. Lisa linked her arm through mine again. Remember, we're just an innocent couple who happened to show up at the same party. Exactly. Just two people looking for their respective spouses. We walked across the room at a casual pace, stopping to chat briefly with a couple of people I knew. Normal party behavior. Nothing rushed, nothing dramatic. As we got closer to my wife's table, I could hear her voice clearly. Oh, he's very understanding about these things. Very secure. Not the jealous type at all. That's rare, the finance woman was saying. Most husbands would have a problem with their wives bringing dates to work parties. Well, when you trust each other completely, these things aren't an issue, my wife replied. Besides, it's just a friendship. Nothing threatening about old friends catching up. Ryan nodded in agreement. Exactly. We're just two people who've known each other a long time. Nothing more complicated than that. Lisa's grip on my arm tightened. We were now about 10 feet away, close enough to hear every word, but they hadn't noticed us yet. Although, my wife continued with a laugh. I have to admit, it's nice to have an escort who knows how to dress properly. Some husbands just don't understand the importance of looking good at these events. Fashion sense is important, Ryan agreed, straightening his tie. Presentation matters. That's when I decided we'd heard enough. There you are. I called out cheerfully, approaching their table with Lisa on my arm. I've been looking everywhere for you. The transformation on my wife's face was immediate. The confident smile faltered, replaced by confusion and something that looked suspiciously like panic. Oh, hi. You found me. Her voice was too bright, too forced. We were just having a great time, I hope, I said warmly. And you must be Ryan. I've heard so much about you. Ryan stood up, extending his hand. Nice to finally meet you. Your wife speaks very highly of you. Does she? That's sweet of her. I shook his hand firmly. Ryan, I'd like you to meet Lisa. Lisa, this is Ryan, my wife's friend. The moment Lisa stepped forward, Ryan's face went completely white. Hello, Ryan, Lisa said with a smile that could cut glass. Fancy meeting you here. The silence that followed was spectacular. Ryan's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, while my wife looked back and forth between Lisa and me with growing horror. Lisa, Ryan finally managed. What are you? Why are you here? Funny story, Lisa said, her voice pleasant but with an edge that could cut steel. My husband told me he was working late tonight. Big presentation, he said. Very important meeting. She looked directly at my wife. Imagine my surprise when I found out he was actually attending a Christmas party as someone's date. My wife's face had gone pale. Date? No, this isn't. We're not. Really? I asked, pulling out my phone. Because you specifically told me you were bringing Ryan as your date to test my trust. Those were your exact words. I scrolled through our text messages. Here it is. I'm bringing my ex to the office Christmas party. A secure husband would understand. Consider it a trust test. The finance woman at the table was staring openly now, and I noticed that several other colleagues had started paying attention to our conversation. Trust test, Lisa repeated slowly. How interesting. Ryan told me he was helping out a friend who needed an escort because her husband couldn't make it. That's not what I said, Ryan protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Oh, but it is exactly what you said. Lisa's smile was getting sharper. You said, and I quote, she just needs someone to accompany her so she doesn't look pathetic showing up alone to her work party. My wife flinched. He said I would look pathetic? Those were his words, not mine, Lisa continued. Although now I'm wondering why you would need an escort when your husband is right here. She gestured to me. Unless, of course, this isn't really about needing an escort at all. The conversation was starting to draw a crowd. People were pretending to mingle nearby, but they were clearly listening to every word. Look, there's obviously been some miscommunication here, Ryan said, attempting to take control. Maybe we should discuss this privately. Miscommunication? I asked. That's an interesting way to put it. My wife tells me she's testing my trust by bringing her ex-boyfriend to her work party. You tell your wife you're helping a friend whose husband can't attend. But here we both are, so obviously someone's been lying. Multiple someones, Lisa added helpfully. My wife was looking around the room, clearly aware that we had an audience. Can we please not do this here? Do what here? I asked innocently. I'm just introducing my wife's date to his wife. Seems like the polite thing to do. Carol from HR had materialized beside our table. Is everything okay here? You all seem a little tense. Everything's fine, my wife said quickly. Just a small misunderstanding. Misunderstanding about what? Carol asked, genuinely curious. Lisa stepped forward. Well, Carol, my husband Ryan here told me he was working late tonight. But it turns out he's actually at a Christmas party with another woman. His ex-girlfriend, to be specific. She gestured to my wife. And that woman told her husband she was testing his trust by bringing her ex-boyfriend as her date. Carol's eyebrows shot up. Oh my. So now we're all here together, I continued. And we're trying to figure out exactly what kind of test this was supposed to be. More people were gathering now. The marketing director, several people from accounting, even a few faces I didn't recognize. My wife looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Ryan, Lisa said, her voice carrying clearly across the growing circle of observers. Would you like to explain to everyone how helping an old friend turned into you lying to your wife about where you were tonight? I didn't lie, Ryan said weakly. I just simplified the situation. Simplified, I repeated. Is that what we're calling it? And what about you? Lisa turned to my wife. How exactly does bringing your ex-boyfriend to your work party test your husband's trust? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you were testing how much you could get away with. My wife's professional composure was cracking. You don't understand the situation. Then explain it, Lisa challenged. Explain it to everyone here. Explain how lying to both of our spouses and showing up together at your work party was actually about trust. The circle of colleagues had grown larger. I could see people taking out their phones, not to record, but probably to text other people about the drama unfolding at the company Christmas party. Look, Ryan said, trying one more time to salvage the situation. We're all adults here. Can't we just agree that there was some confusion and move on? Confusion, I said thoughtfully. That's one word for it. Although I'm not confused at all. Are you confused, Lisa? Not even a little bit, Lisa replied. I'm quite clear on what's happening here. My wife finally snapped. Fine. You want the truth? Ryan and I have been talking for weeks. We've been catching up, reminiscing about old times. Yes, I wanted to see him again. Yes, I thought bringing him tonight would be fun. But nothing inappropriate happened. Nothing inappropriate, Lisa repeated. You mean besides lying to your husband, lying to my husband, and carrying on an emotional affair for weeks? It's not an affair. What would you call it then? I asked calmly. The room had gone completely quiet. Even the DJ seemed to have noticed the tension and lowered the music. I call it reconnecting with someone who actually appreciates me, my wife said, her voice rising. Someone who makes me feel interesting and attractive instead of taking me for granted. There it was. The truth, finally out in the open, in front of her entire office. Ryan was backing away slightly. Look, maybe I should just go. Oh no, Lisa said firmly. You don't get to run away now. You helped create this situation. You're going to see it through to the end. What end? My wife demanded. What do you people want? We want honesty, I said simply. We want you to admit that this was never about testing trust. This was about you wanting to have your cake and eat it too. You wanted to spend the evening with your ex-boyfriend, and you wanted to manipulate me into giving you permission to do it. And we want you, Lisa said to Ryan, to admit that you've been lying to me for weeks about where you've been and who you've been talking to. The marketing director stepped forward. Maybe we should take this conversation somewhere more private? No, my wife said suddenly. No, let's finish this right here. You want honesty? Fine. Yes, I've been talking to Ryan. Yes, I enjoyed it. Yes, I wanted to see him again. And yes, I knew my husband would object if I was direct about it, so I framed it as a trust test. And you? Lisa turned to Ryan. Ryan looked around the room at all the faces staring at him. I've been unhappy at home. Talking to her reminded me of better times. I thought maybe we could just be friends, but you wanted more, Lisa finished. I wanted to feel appreciated again. Well, I said, breaking the silence that followed. I think we've all learned something valuable tonight about trust and honesty. My wife was staring at me. What happens now? Now you deal with the consequences of your choices. Both of you. I turned to address the crowd that had gathered. Sorry for the interruption, everyone. Please, go back to enjoying your party. As people began to disperse, murmuring among themselves, I looked at my wife one last time. I'll be at a hotel tonight. We can discuss the details of our divorce when you're ready to be honest about what you really want. Lisa linked her arm through mine again. Ryan, I'll be filing papers on Monday. Don't bother coming home tonight. And with that, we walked away, leaving them standing there in the wreckage of their own making. 3 months later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office reviewing the final divorce papers. The whole thing had been surprisingly straightforward once the truth came out. No custody battles since we had no kids. No complex asset division since we kept most things separate. My wife had tried calling the day after the Christmas party, full of apologies and explanations. She wanted to talk, wanted to work things out, claimed the whole thing had been a mistake. I listened politely and then told her my decision was final. You made your choice at that party, I'd said, in front of your entire office. You chose him over our marriage. Now you get to live with that choice. The professional consequences had been swift and brutal. The story of the Christmas party spread through her company like wildfire. Her colleagues couldn't look at her the same way anymore. The respect she'd built over years was gone in one evening. She'd submitted her resignation 2 weeks later. Ryan hadn't fared much better. Lisa had indeed filed for divorce the following Monday, and his own professional reputation took a hit when word spread through the marketing community. Small industry, apparently. People talk. Lisa and I had kept in touch, supporting each other through the divorce proceedings. Nothing romantic, just two people who'd been through the same betrayal helping each other navigate the aftermath. So what's next for you? My lawyer asked as I signed the final documents. Fresh start. New apartment. Focusing on work, maybe travel a bit. I set down the pen. First time I've been single in 8 years. I'm actually looking forward to it. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Papers signed today. Officially free. Drinks to celebrate. I smiled and typed back. Definitely. You buying? After what we've been through. We're going Dutch. I don't trust anyone to pick up the check anymore. I laughed out loud, earning a curious look from my lawyer. Good news? He asked. The best kind. The kind where you realize that sometimes when people show you who they really are, the biggest favor they can do is leave. 2 hours later, Lisa and I were sitting at a bar downtown, toasting our new lives with expensive whiskey. Any regrets? She asked. About the divorce? None. About how we handled that party? Also none. I raised my glass. Sometimes you have to burn down the bridge to make sure you never cross it again. To burn bridges, Lisa said, clinking her glass against mine. And to trust tests that actually work. Just not the way some people intended. We both laughed, the sound echoing through the bar. Somewhere across town, my ex-wife was dealing with the consequences of thinking she could manipulate her way through life. Ryan was probably having the same realization, but that wasn't my problem anymore. You know what the funny thing is? Lisa said after a moment. What's that? They probably thought they were so clever, planning their little reunion. Never occurred to them that their spouses might be just as clever. Smarter, actually. We planned better, executed better, and came out on top. To being smarter, Lisa said, raising her glass again. To being smarter, and to never settling for less than we deserve. The divorce was final, the paperwork was complete, and my life was my own again. My ex-wife had wanted to test my trust. She'd definitely gotten results, just not the ones she'd expected. Sometimes the best trust test is the one that reveals the truth about everyone involved.